Welcome to part 2 of Radical Inclusion, a Disability Revolution. Sierra College is honored to welcome international disability rights activist extraordinaire, Judith Heumann. You met Judy in Crip Camp, but you may well have seen her in action during her TED Talk with Trevor Noah, on talk shows or the news, or perhaps even when Ali Stoker portrayed her in Drunk History segment on the passing of Section 504. As a leader, Judy's impact in the United States in creating disability legislation and notions of liberation cannot be overstated. Judy's work has global importance and includes the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the International Human Rights Treaty of the United Nations. 2 presidential appointments took Judy to Washington. During the Clinton era, she spent 8 years as the Assistant Secretary, Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services in the U.S. Department of Education. For the Obama administration, she was the Special Advisor for International Disability Rights at the U.S. Department of State. Judith has authored 2 books, Being Human, an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist, and, for the younger set, Rolling Warrior, the incredible, sometimes awkward, true story of a rebel girl on wheels who helped spark a revolution. These books can be found in our library or at a bookstore near you. Judy also serves on many nonprofit boards, including the American Association of People with Disabilities and the Human Rights Watch Board. Learn more by listening to Judy's regular program, The Human Perspective. She can be found on her YouTube channel as well as on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. In conversation with Judy will be Sierra College student Victoria Miller, a feminist disability rights activist since 1998. Victoria is also a mother, partner, daughter, friend, and grandmother.
I was 27 when I became disabled due to a ruptured blood vessel in my head. I had 2 small children. I was a single parent, going to school, working, and my life changed in about an hour. Everything in my life, I lost my job, my apartment. Anyways, I spent probably good 7-8 years in a wheelchair, and I hid from the world. I was very embarrassed about the way I sounded, the way I looked. I hid. I've recently learned overcoming my disability denies part of who I am, so I no longer want to overcome. And then I watched Crip Camp. Felt great, and then I felt real connected to the film because I was also born in Berkeley in the 70s. And so I felt, this is about me, kind of. And then Judith said something that has profoundly changed my entire path in life now. And she said, as long as I have to be thankful for handicapped toilets, how can I ever be equal? And it lit something in me that had long ago been put out, a fire that I put out. And I never realized that. I never really thought about the fact that, why am I being thankful for something other people don't even think about? I can't be equal. I can't be equal. And I no longer want to ride out the storm. I kind of want to be the storm. And watching the film made me realize how far we still have to go. And I want to be in that front line.
Along with Victoria, we welcome disability rights activist Josh Sauma, a Sierra College Business Administration major. Currently, Josh is a Disabled Student Service Program employee, and he plans to transfer to Sacramento State.
I grew up pretty independent, played sports my whole life. And I was always like a go-getter, from since I was young. I went to Wood Creek High School in Roseville, so I grew up, out here pretty much, Rockland area. I was fortunate enough to play football at Sierra College after high school. I played rugby shortly. It was and then the accident happened, and the accident, wasn't wearing my seatbelt, and I'm lucky to be alive. Everything changed, just in a blink of an eye. It happened so fast. I was pronounced dead at the scene because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, so I was ejected through the driver window. And I woke up 5 days later, and it took some time for me to realize really what happened. How the impact, that I wasn't going to be able to walk, that I wasn't going to be able to play sports ever again. Do things that I used to do, snowboard, skateboard, all those things were just gone, and so for the longest time I was embarrassed, I didn't like the way my clothes fit, it was impossible to find any clothes. I didn't want to go anywhere. You realize who your real friends are, when something like that happens, because they stop calling, in Crip Camp, it showed me that just a group of kids, who all have something in common, when they came together, it was just like a family. It was they instantly knew what each other were going through, so they were able to connect on in ways that they're not able to do on their own, when they're in public around people who don't have a disability, people who, are always looking twice at them, looking back, seeing what's wrong with them, or just because they're different. I would have never, before my accident, would have never gotten involved with, so not that I had anything against people with disabilities, but I just didn't understand, I wasn't able to connect with them, they're able to connect with each other. And so, Crip Camp showed me that a group of kids who all have a disability were able to come together and change the course of history for people with disabilities. And I think that's just amazing. It showed me that some of them were able to go on and have kids, even with the disability. And that was always one of my biggest fears, was if I was going to be able to have kids, and so they just, that film showed me that anything's possible. I'm able to accomplish anything as long as I am surrounded by people who understand, love me, and support me. So
our facilitator today is Anya Stanger. Anya is teaching faculty in Sierra's Women and Gender Studies program, and she teaches in the Conflict Studies program at Syracuse University. Anya is a social movements researcher with a PhD from Syracuse. Her book, Incarcerated Resistance: How Identity, Gender, and Privilege Shaped the Experiences of America's Nonviolent Activists, was published this January.
So the thing that really stayed with me about this film was the impact of going to summer camp and being really truly included and getting to do all the things that kids want to do. And they had a lot of fun. But in the longer term, they went home to their schools and communities, and they realized these places differently where they couldn't do the same thing. And that showed up as maybe injustice or unfair, but certainly as something that could be changed. And so summer camp was really fun, but when we telescope that out, we see that the impact of that was that these people's lives were changed, and as a result, they became this group of activists who changed not only policy in the United States, but people's lives all over the world. So that this impact was global.
A quote from Judy's memoir: being human. Everything I've done in my life, I never would have been able to do on my own.